Unplugged Live. I'm Michael Patton, and we're really excited to have you. Whatever place you're coming from, YouTube or Spotify, it's great to have you. Wherever you're coming from, please do subscribe. You'll love this channel. It's a lot of fun. It's called Theology Unplugged, and we really do things unplugged. But I've told you this many times before, probably 100 over the last, almost 20 years we've been doing this. Gosh, since 2005. But it started as a after class discussion in my theology program classes. I taught all these theology program classes for 6 years at Stonebriar Community Church, big crowds. It was a blast. And then afterwards, we just have lines of people who'd want to come up and talk. And as I was talking to them in a very informal way, it seemed like I changed my tune. When a presentation, it's very formal, very structured. But whenever I got with them, I changed my tune, and I thought, this is really great. This is better than the classes themselves, maybe. And so I said, we got to somehow be unplugged and let people see it. So this is where that came from. And so I have got a friend, and we've been talking about UFOs. Of course, yeah, here we go, UFOs. UFOlogy is what I call it. UFOlogy Bonanza, because it's crazy. I mean, it's crazy, and if it's not crazy to you, it should be, because there's something going on, and I'm not saying what it is, but I'm saying whatever is going on has a significant impact, no matter what view you take. And no matter what view you take, it sounds like a conspiracy theory, because it is here. We got something going, either in somebody's minds, either a bunch of lies, or there's something going on. So I've got a good friend, Ed Kratz. He took the theology program. Gosh, I've known him for 20 years as well, as long as I've known Carrie. And he is a great friend. We've talked for years and years. And we're able to talk like this. We have conversations like this. And he likes to talk about UFOs just like me. He's interested in it. And we just go back and forth on what in the world's going on. And so we have completely figured it out. And we're going to tell you here during this podcast. So let me introduce Ed Kratz.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, Ed. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. That we already said how you doing in the green room, but now we're doing it formally. See, that's unplugged.
I have to correct you already.
What's that?
I've known you longer than Carrie, because I was your first TA, and Carrie came in after Taffy.
Oh, he was longer than Carrie. That is something special there. I'm telling you.
Yeah, there you go.
But he was on my online classes. Gosh, we've met up. We've done things together. He's come here and had a long work vacation. He's worked for us, and he still does in a way. Whenever I have a problem, any problem that's a technical problem, he does it, because Ed is a technology whiz. He knows about computers, and he knows about programming. He can do all this stuff. And so his mind is structured different than mine. And so it's fun for us to talk about this and see the meeting of the minds. Now, Ed, okay, here's the deal, right? I mean, what was it? Day before yesterday, we had somebody come into the Senate and talk about UFOs. Can you explain briefly what he did?
Well, okay, there's three people altogether, right? It was Grush, and then Fravor. Fravor was the guy with the Tic Tac video, and then I can't remember the other guy's name, but I mean, it was kind of weird, right? Because the first question that he was asked, he said he couldn't answer, which was, have we had contact with UFOs? But then after that, they asked him, do we have biologicals, is what he called it, right? Alien biologicals. He says yes. Won't say whether or not we had contact with them, right? He says we have hardware that's stored, and he knows where it's stored. But the important thing with Grush to me is
what does his name? Spell out his name if you can.
Grucsh.
Okay.
Right, and he's not an eyewitness though. He's interviewed people who are eyewitnesses. So like Fravor, he was the pilot for the Tic Tac video. So he actually shot the Tic Tac video. Well, I mean, it was in his jet, right? So, but it's interesting that the Congress, and if you watched the latest Skinwalker Ranch, Mike Lee was on there for a second. He didn't really say much. He just thanks for the work, and it's kind of it's important for national security if something's going on, stuff like that.
Well, it's interesting to me that you have Congress being interested in this suddenly.
Right. The biggest part, right? They're actually talking about it.
Yeah. That's just odd. First of all, I mean that's the thing that stands out, and that's probably the reason why we're doing the podcast. Not because people are now saying stuff about it, in general, or people have seen something new, but Congress has called this, and during the interview, from what I saw, they were actually very interested.
Yeah, some of them are. Yeah.
And so, and a lot of the questions, they, like you said, they said they couldn't answer, but they said they would answer afterwards to Congress in private, right?
We're in a skiff, they'll show you stuff in a skiff. And
what's a skiff?
The skiff is a special compartmented information something. It's basically a giant Faraday cage. You know what that is? There's no cell phones taken in, right? There's no way to communicate. Everything's done inside that room that's disconnected from the world.
And so basically once you leave the room, you can't tell anybody.
Yeah, you can't take anything in. Generally, you can't take anything out. So.
Well, I mean, why would they even do that? I mean, Congress has got to respond in some way, right? I mean, I don't know how.
But... Yeah, but I mean, this is when you go back with the whole Trump thing, and I'm not trying to jump around, but this is where Adam Schiff would go into the skiff, read the stuff, and then come out and just make up stories, right? Mm-hmm. Because he would tell you stuff, there was no way to back it up, because or see whether he's telling the truth, because it's all classified information. So that's the problem.
Okay, well, let me talk to our audience and talk to you as I do this. But whenever we talk about these UFOs, whenever we talk about these aliens, I mean, obviously, it's not a shoulder shrug from a Christian worldview. I mean, here's what anybody looking at this usually doesn't have this built into their theology, because you don't find this in the Bible. Of course, people have wondered. I mean, it's been a question we've all had where we ask, do you think there are people on other planets? We've been saying that all my entire life, and going way, way back ever since we started going to space, and, just basically discovered how big the universe is, how many planets there are. So it's been a question forever. Is there life on other planets? And so this is something that you've probably in some time been asked or asked this question, and you came up with an answer. Maybe your answer was, well, the universe is big and God can do whatever he wants. Or maybe you can say, no, I don't think so, because the universe, if there is other people on other planets, or beings, humanoids on other planets, people that are self-aware, any creature that is self-aware, on other planets, then we would have to ask the question about their relationship to God in lieu of the fall. That's what we'd say, because whenever we talk about the fall, we believe that the fall affected all of creation, not just us as individuals, our spirits, not just that we're broken, not just that we're separated from God whenever we're born and we need Christ, but even the earth itself is subject to to the fall. Romans tells us that. It tells us about everything being affected, and all of creation, in a sense, yearning for the coming of Christ, because creation itself, in some sense, it's not conscious, but the idea is it needs to be restored. Something was better than what we have. And so sin affected all of creation, even the animals. Everything was affected. So that's the question. Okay, if there are aliens on other planets, what happened? Hold on. I'm going to take a break, turn my light back on. I'll edit this. Need a new light there too. So that's where we end up, I think. And now here we are, asking this question again and being very serious about it, which is the crazy thing. So, Ed, did I get that? You think I got that right?
I think so. I think it's definitely right, because I mean, those are the answers. That's the question, right? Is there life on another planet? Is it even within this dimension, right? Or spiritual beings or aliens, however you're going to classify them, are they from another planet or are they from another dimension? I think that's one of the big questions. Because if they're from another planet, then it seems like they're inside of our universe. They're bound by natural law,
Yeah.
physics, right?
Yeah.
And you start talking about 10,000 light years away. Well, how did they get here? Because the physical world, if you can only travel so fast before you just implode, right, and just disintegrate.
Yeah, Einstein says the speed of light is we can't do the speed of light. We can't get up to it because it's I forget what it says. Something like it's you turn into pure mass or something. And I don't know what that means.
Right.
But we can't go the speed of light, and the nearest planet to be able to get here would be, I mean, what, 1,000,000 years or something?
Yeah.
Travel at the speed of light.
Yeah, and that's so to me that's where it seems more interdimensional than other planets, but it's all speculation, right? Because we don't even know that our physics are 100% right.
So basically what you're saying is that the theory right now is we can't do the speed of light, but I mean, all science is in process and it's in a theory. And so there may be something we don't know within physics that allows us to travel faster. Maybe, like in Star Trek, you go warp, and that's the speed of light. Warp 5, though, is 500 times the speed of light, and warp 9 or 9.9, that's the fastest Star Trek can go. I'm very much a Trekkie, right. But it's 1,100 times the speed of light. But it still takes a long time. They were going 100,000 times the speed of light, and 1,100 times the speed of light. The other one would be pretty darn fast, but they were going they got transported to another part of our universe, far, far away in our galaxy, only in our galaxy. And they were traveling as fast as they could, 1,100 times the speed of light, and it was taking them 70 years to get back. That's just within our galaxy. Right. And there's so many other galaxies. And, right. So we can see these galaxies. So that's the amazing thing. And that's another thing, Ed, people come up with that seems very reasonable in some ways, is that, I mean, if there's that many, the chances are, this is what they'd say, chances. Right. They would say the chances are, if we evolved, let's take God out of the equation for a second, and they say, well, the chances are there's somebody else somewhere. Well,
Yeah, but that's taking God out of the equation and inserting evolution.
But listen, let's put God. I mean, let me not take God completely out of the equation, but be a evolutionary theist. You do believe in God, but you believe he used evolution, and so maybe he's letting things go. It's kind of a deist approach. Right. But sometimes when people say that, I have the feeling that that's what's in their mind. It's just, there's got to be chances are there's something else. I just got a comment on Facebook that said the exact same thing from a Christian. Right. So chances are. Okay. So
I believe, God, you started it off, right? God can do anything he wants. God can have life on 1,000,000 other planets if he wants to. He's God. He created the planets. If he created the universe, which we believe he did, strongly believe that, why can't he have life on other planets? My only problem is, and it's not even a problem, it's just the one issue is, if those people, that creation, whatever it is, if they could reach us, just seems like God would have given us a heads up. That's the only issue that I have. Like in the Bible somewhere, and some people will say that the Watchers and things like that, and I think they're valid points. The Watchers, in the Old Testament, we're told that there's angels that report back to God in Job and Zechariah. So some people will point to that, and it could be. I don't believe the aliens necessarily. I don't want to get ahead of you too much, but I don't think the aliens or the UFOs are necessarily good spirits or evil spirits. But I do think they are spiritual beings.
Okay, so first of all, Ed, let's ask this question. You do believe something's happening out there?
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
You don't think it's a lie?
No.
You don't think? I mean, I can't tell you.
I think there's a lot of lies, right? There's a lot of lies, but there are things that we can't explain.
Okay, let me go real broad for a second. This is where my mind goes.
Okay.
Very, very broad.
Hey, I remember having 3-hour conversations back with, what was it called, ghost hunters or whatever.
There we go. You knew where I was going. Okay, so we got a lot of different categories, right? Let me read off some of these categories. This is my cheat sheet, remember? Okay, so we've got aliens, and then there's lots of groups of aliens. You got the grays. That's kind of the most common one. Right. You've got the lizard. The lizards, is that what it's called?
Some people call them, I think they call them the Dracas. But I don't get into all the different types that much, but they are called the Dracas or lizard people, right? That's like David Icke.
Okay, so but this is the type of things though people say they see. I mean, we don't have this from, well, we had not yet. We don't have it from the government. And that guy that talked. Wait, let me go back to the guy that talked for a second. I'm sorry, but who was that guy?
He's supposedly former intelligence whistleblower. He's a whistleblower. It's Air Force intelligence, something like that. And
so it's not the Air Force coming up and saying we've got to tell everybody. It's somebody who used to be in it, and he's telling on them.
That's what he says. He doesn't seem like a whistleblower to me, especially in his original News Nation.
Well, why doesn't he seem like a whistleblower?
Because he's like so casual. He's so. I mean, it's a pretty big story he's telling, right? Like, it seems like he got the green light to go ahead and do this, even though they're calling him a whistleblower.
Okay, so
he's even was put out there. I'm not sure, but he just seems too casual about it for somebody who's going against the government narrative.
So you don't think there's something going on within the government, something in the deep state, something in the bureaucracy, something in the military, that they're fighting this, and they're kind of like, oh my gosh, Congress is finding out, and Congress is like, we really got to figure out what's going on here. Our leaders, our representatives, they're elected and they're in and out. I mean, within 4 years, 8 years. I mean, they get reelected a lot of times, some of the senators in Congress, but you got them, and you think to yourself, do they know what's going on? Just like every time the president is interviewed on one of these night shows, what do they ask him? Whichever president it is,
right?
They ask him, are there UFOs?
Right.
They've always done that, because that is something you assume the high people in the government actually do know. But this is telling us, no, they don't know. The people who are elected for us don't know, but the people who have full-time jobs in the government, the deep state, the black ops,
right,
something deep secret, a bunch of people, they do know, and Congress is fighting with them. I mean, does that seem like a fair thing to say?
I think that's accurate, and that's why I think Grush is too casual in his interview, because those are the people that he's blowing the whistle on, right?
Do you think he's blowing the whistle in a sense, just to, like whenever you tell a lie, you tell only a little piece of it, so it looks like you've confessed?
Yeah,
but there's a whole lot more.
Yeah, they'll call it like a limited hangout, right, where he's going to give you a little bit of information, but not the whole story, and he probably doesn't know the whole story. I don't think there's a lot of people that do know that the entire story as a group of people.
Yeah,
everything that's going on.
Yeah,
I think there's absolutely black ops. There's absolutely deep state or bureaucratic state, whatever you want to call it. That they're not sharing the information with the elected officials at all, because they're temporary, and they might come out.
Yeah,
the president might be like, hey, and they might also use it for political purposes.
Isn't that interesting? I mean, basically, what we're saying is that Congress doesn't really run some of the foundational things that are going on in the background.
Well, that's a big problem, right?
Yeah, well,
that's a real big problem, but it's true. We know that there's all these. I think it's a combination with this particular topic of the government and these big companies that make all of the military weaponry and things like that. The military industrial complex, whatever you want to call it.
People that aren't even in the military too. Some of these, some of these
corporations, Lockheed and Raytheon, and all these companies, they have billions and billions of dollars worth of technology invested, money and the tech. And how much of it? When do we find out?
I want to get to the next part of what I was going to talk about, but one more thing. Why do you think Okay, let's say the deep state does know. Let's assume right now that the
Right.
deep state does know a lot. Well, not everything, but they are
Yeah.
know a lot and they're investigating a lot. And there's
Mhm.
different groups that are connected to them that are doing the same thing. And maybe let's say that because this is what he says. Didn't he say there was we were using the technology?
Yeah, yeah. He said we're reverse engineering it.
Okay, so
I don't remember him saying specifically what technology we were reverse engineering. A lot of people talk about that with the drives and anti gravity and all that stuff. I don't think he actually said that, at least not in the Congress one.
okay. Well, that's the theory too.
But
I mean, the
yeah,
theory is there may be a lot of these UFOs that we see. You know, the Tic Tac and the traditional looking UFOs, all those that we see. A lot of them may be ours.
right. Yeah, I think a lot of them are ours. I mean, we didn't know about the stealth bomber until we knew about the stealth bomber.
Yeah.
But they were flying it around, testing it to see what people would see, what they would report, how it would do with radar for years before we actually knew about it. And people were reporting it as UFOs.
Well, let's give them the benefit of the doubt for a second. Let's ask this. They are doing things in the background. They are creating stealth. Where they're creating things to protect America eventually. That I'm just giving them the benefit of the doubt. I'm not saying they are actually doing that for that purpose, but let's just say they are. The government actually is working for us, and it's good, and they're keeping it secret. Why are they keeping it secret in this context?
In that context, I mean, wouldn't you rather have a weapon that China and Russia don't know about until you pull it out? I mean, that just seems you want them to think that you have less than you have. That would be what I would do strategically. Why show them something that's 25 years ahead of where we are? Just to show it. Unless you're trying to scare them, I think you're better off keeping it secret.
Isn't that interesting to think what's going on there? Like if you're working there and you're in the deep state, you know about all this stuff and you're trying to keep it secret. But I'm assuming a lot of stuff because there's just all kinds of things that go through my mind. But let's say that Russia and China and everybody, they don't have this stuff. They didn't get a crashed UFO, but obviously they've heard that there's rumors at least that we have this stuff.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a big assumption to assume they don't have it.
Okay, let's say they don't.
Things are just like, hey, let's go to America.
Yeah, well, let's say they don't for just for a second, because we are keeping it secret, and if we're keeping it secret, therefore we are hoping they don't know. Right. Otherwise, it doesn't. No reason to keep it secret, and so there's probably something in the CIA, all that kind of stuff, something going on to where we are protecting it, and then their organizations are coming and trying to spy on us and figure out what's going on. It just seems like that would be more of a trouble, but you never hear about stuff like that. Not that you hear about much that's going on in the deep state, though, but it seems like, China and Russia, they would be trying to hack whatever it is, the organizations that are there. But let me get to this part. Okay. So, this is the broader categories of what we're talking about, because you got the aliens, you got the grays, the grays that are just the traditional looking aliens, big old eyes, kind of short, gray, or sometimes green. You got the lizards, you got the insectoids. You've heard of those, right?
Yep. Yeah, I've heard of the whole list, but
I mean, it's just funny because you can find people that are seem to be very legitimate. And, talk about seeing a big insect looking creature that used telepathy to talk to me. I've seen people like that are very, very interesting. I'm not saying I believe it, but it's just interesting because there's the most interesting thing to me, Ed, is these people are willing to put their reputations on the line.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that is very destructive for them.
Yeah.
It doesn't benefit. I mean, like when we talk about the resurrection of Christ, one of the greatest evidences is the apostles, what they did afterwards. They put their lives on the line and gave up their lives saying this. And so these people, I'm not saying they're putting their lives on the line, but they are putting their reputation on the line and their future on the line for this. So it's just interesting because you've got all of these people actually saying They see these things and they're real. The tall grays, and then they've also got the humanoid looking ones, the ones that almost look human. I mean, those go from the Men of Black and Men in Black to others. Maybe that girl on the plane. You know that girl on the plane?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Oh, you gotta watch that. It's all over TikTok, all over YouTube. But some girl on a plane recently, about a week ago, just started freaking out, and they're recording her, and she's going, "That man over there is not really a man.
Oh,
He's a lizard," or something like that. So
I did see that.
but the thing is, there's just so much of that stuff, and we can throw it away real quick. People are crazy, whatever. But I think about it, and I say, there seems to be something going on, and not just in the deep state, but in the deep culture, behind the scenes, that is odd. Okay, we know God's involved with everything. We trust God. We know that what the Bible says, it doesn't say anything about this, but at the same time, we have to use experience in our sources for truth. Because that's actually the primary source of truth that we go to. We just don't admit it. It's experience and emotions. But okay, so you got those, and then I know I'm going to bring this up. We've got also the paranormal stuff that people talk about.
I think they're all tied together.
Yeah, all this paranormal stuff where people are investigating ghost adventures and Project Fear. That's my favorite, Project Fear. If you ever want to watch one, have you seen Project Fear?
No. I was trying to look at somebody else. No, I haven't even heard of it.
You gotta watch that. Promise me you'll watch some of it. I'm watching that. I did watch all through the Beyond Skywalker Ranch. That was really good. You were right. Some of those episodes were good. So I did that for you. You watch Project Fear, at least one of them.
I will do that.
Okay, so
I don't get any of the major channels here.
You don't know it's on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
But you've got this going on. I mean, people seeing ghosts, people hearing spirits, people picking things up on their Ring cameras. I had a girl call me, and I've got the conversation. I recorded it. She talked to me for an hour. A Christian. She was a Presbyterian, and just as solid as can be theologically. But she, with a straight face, I didn't see her face, but was talking to her. She, with a straight face, told me this story for an hour about different things she's experienced in her house, things that she hears on her camera, things that have happened to her that goes so far as a man coming in her kitchen that looked like kind of like her husband, but was much taller and had longer arms and formed more and more into her husband as she walked by. I know it sounds crazy, but the thing is, you've got so many of these things, and we just kind of throw them away as if they're that easy to throw away and say people are lying. I know people lie, but usually they have a reason for it, and you can figure out that reason. I don't know what was going on with her, but here's the deal. I did believe she was serious, and I did believe that she wasn't making stuff up.
Right, something happened.
Yeah.
Unless we personally experience something, I don't think we can really believe it.
Yeah, I agree.
But you can believe by knowing people and listening to them. It's just like miracles, right? When we hear people telling stories of miracles or exorcisms and things like that, working with missions groups, right, and having known people going all over the world. Some of the stories you hear are unbelievable, but they're miracles, so it's easier for us as Christians to accept. The darker side of the spiritual world is much harder for us to accept.
Yeah.
We know it exists, but we if we don't experience it personally, we're like, yeah, okay, whatever. But why wouldn't that exist?
Yeah. Well, when you're talking about ghosts, here's the thing. Just like with aliens, a Christian goes through their mind and they say, well, there's one of two options. These ghosts are real. I really saw Saint Thomas Aquinas said he saw his brother come back from the dead, and he believed it was his brother. I mean, not bodily. I mean, his spirit.
Right.
And his spirit would talk to him sometimes. Saint Thomas Aquinas is no lightweight and wasn't crazy. He was the what do they call him? The bull theologian. He was really big at the end. Kind of like I am. I'm trying to do the Aquinas thing. No, actually, I'm reversing that right now. But You've got people who think they're real, and then there's people who think these must be just demons trying to mess with us. The dark side, the evil spirits messing with us.
Right.
And that's usually the two options they have. I don't necessarily take either one of those options, but those are the two options we may talk about mine. Now, let me just throw these out here, okay? Because I get into this stuff sometimes. I do enjoy it because it makes my mind think, and it gets me out of the box that I'm in theologically to say what if. And that's really all I try to get people to do is say what if. I'm not saying we're going to tell you what's right. I said that at first, but I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
What if?
That was your clickbait.
Cryptoids in general. Cryptoids, that's what they're called. They're not cryptoids. You got Bigfoot, of course. I mean, there's so much stuff about Bigfoot, always has been. I mean, the same type of thing, people putting their reputation online saying they saw this stuff. You got Bigfoot, you got werewolves. You really do look that up. There is in the northern states, there are people that believe they see werewolves, people that have arms and legs, humanoid people, but have a head of a dog or a wolf. So werewolf, Loch Ness monster, of course, the Pukwudgie. That's my favorite. He's one that is really short, has a big belly, and leads people somewhere. And I don't know, steals their spirit or something. Skinwalkers are the scariest, just because the name. I mean, and coming from the Indians, the Aztecs, and the curse, those just kind of are scary. But what a skinwalker is
it's very close to it. Apparently it's a shapeshifter, though, right?
Yeah. That's it, shapeshifter.
Yeah, so it's similar to a werewolf, though. When it attacks, it seems like it goes from a wolf and it runs alongside the car. Of course, this shows 4 seasons in. They've never had anything.
Yeah,
it shows that you only have one story from. I like the show. I like the technology. I like the tests. Getting a little tired of rockets, but the stories.
I'm getting tired of the rockets too. Yeah. It's like over and over again. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. So, but.
Yeah, Skinwalker. Skinwalker is not just Skinwalker Ranch. Skinwalker has to do with the curse the Aztecs put on.
Right, but that ranch is named that because of the Skinwalker.
Yeah.
And they haven't seen really any kind of compelling evidence of anything like that.
No.
The supernatural aspect seems to have gone out. I mean, the supernatural, if there really is some sort of 31 feet up, there's something or whatever.
Yeah, right now he's talking about the Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch. That's a show that is on, I believe, the History Channel.
Yeah, it's the same people do Curse of
both of us watch that, and we talk about it afterwards. It's very interesting. And he's just saying that technology is the interesting thing, not necessarily that they see anything, but there are things that happen that are odd and make you scratch your head. But Skinwalkers, Wendigos, and night crawlers, those are the main ones. Night crawlers to me are the creepiest. Have you ever seen a night crawler?
I don't know what that is. No.
It's these things that it look like just 2 long legs walking, and they're not always walk at night, and there's not really much of a head. It's just legs and then a head. And those things are creepy. I've seen a bunch of those. Now, the reason why I bring all this up is because I'm just saying this. There's a broad range of really weird things that people say they see and are serious, and it's very hard to just discount what they're saying because, I mean, like I said, they ruin their reputation. We have people in the government that have done it. We've got people that are high up. We've got people in the military that are doing it. I mean, there's just a lot of really credible sources that say they see these things. And so we gotta say they're seeing something. And it's very hard just to write it off as some type of natural phenomenon. Some of them, you can, but a lot of them, it's very hard to.
Some of them trying to just get a big following on YouTube and stuff too, but not the government people necessarily. They're more serious, right?
Yeah.
You hope, right? But the government's been involved in some weird stuff over the history.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you're right, because it's easy if they are on YouTube making money to write it off as they've got to do that to entertain people. So you can do that, but it does go beyond that. The reputations that people are on the line. You got a lot of people that are doing it. There's a guy that I forget what it's called. I'll think of it in just a moment, but he's on YouTube and he's an older man, and something started happening in his house, and he just started recording it and throwing those up on YouTube. And he's done it now for years, and he doesn't make any money on it. He's not in it for that at all. But that is the most interesting one. That is kind of outside the box of the standard shows. But I'll remember it. It's a really good one. I have to tell you what it is, but you've got to watch Project Fear. That's just fun to watch. It's crazy too, because they are crazy, and I try to think, would I do what they're doing? And what they basically do is go into a haunted house or a haunted building or a haunted hospital, an old hospital, and then all four of them separate and go to what are the most haunted places and sleep there for the night.
Now, is that part of the New York Post?
Yeah. The New York Post did a long thing on it. Yeah, it was
because I saw as you're describing.
Wait a minute. No. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of your New York Post doing something on Skinwalker Ranch.
Well, they did that too.
Yeah.
That was called something like the Basement Office.
Yeah.
They did that, right? But then on that same channel, there's different groups of videos.
I don't know that they've done Project Fear.
I'll check it out.
I need to check that
one recently, and it was very similar to what you're talking about.
Okay, I'm going to check that out. I want to see it. I'm always looking for good paranormal or cryptoid or whatever else stuff. I don't spend all my time doing this, but I am interested. And I do think it has significance whenever it becomes visible. And here's the thing, Ed. I do think we as Christians people may say, hey, listen, I just set that stuff aside, concentrate on God, what God has given me, what's in front of me. I don't care about any of that stuff. And I say, okay, that makes sense. But another thing that I say makes more sense, especially for people, like us, you teach in your classes, you teach Bible, I teach, and I think we're responsible for looking at the world, looking at technology, looking at everything that's going on, because we believe that is a source that God has given us to understand things. The Bible is the primary source. It's the one we go to for all of our spiritual things. It's the final source. But whenever we're talking about just this kind of stuff, I think we're supposed to. I think we should, and I don't think it's wrong. Now, Ed, you'll probably agree with me on this. We're just observing and trying to figure out what's going on. We are not going in and trying to find ghosts or trying to find aliens, just trying to call aliens, sticking a light up in the sky and doing some meditation, trying to bring aliens here. That is something that I believe you're against, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's part of the alien, especially with aliens and ghosts, though, is this whole, and I'm not going to mention names of people, right? But like the whole issue of meditating and getting group meditations to try and attract UFOs.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think you're basically, it's the modern Ouija board, right? When I was a kid, or the modern seance. When I was a kid, I had older brothers and sisters and cousins, and they used to try and scare us all the time. And when the parents were out, I'd turn the lights out, do a seance, and then your brother's knocking on the table or something like that. But there's serious issues, and that's what Hugh Ross talks a lot about. There are a lot of aliens.
Hugh Ross. He's tell me who he is.
Reasons to Believe.
Okay, Reasons to Believe.
Right.
And
he's
a Christian, and he defends. He usually just defends old Earth type stuff, right?
Yeah, but if I'm not he's an astrophysicist. Okay. I believe, right?
Good guy though, right?
Real good guy. And he even was over in Russia speaking with their physicists over there a long time ago. And they were big into the occult. And his thing is that a lot of the actual reports come from the occult, from people doing satanic worship, doing meditation, in not meditating on the word of God, right? So anyway, so that's kind of his line, and you should watch some of his videos online. He goes into it quite a bit.
Hugh Ross, that's who we're talking about. Hugh Ross. Yeah. Okay, so the way you talked about Ouija board,
because I'm talking about like this whole using using the idea of spiritual beings. They're using the same kind of technique that are attracting UFOs, and they're usually like these orbs, right? Most sightings are not clear physical objects. They see these bright lights in the sky that are moving all over the place and fast, right? So are they all the same thing, or are those demons? Are they the ones that are shutting down the nuclear plants? Are they angels trying to keep us from killing ourselves? Maybe. That's why. That's why I just can't put them all in the same category. I don't think I have to. Right.
It's interesting. That is so interesting. I mean, just whenever you say things like that, it kind of just the box begins to break. You know, you have to break out of the box sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have to say something, even in theory, maybe that sounds like a conspiracy theory, which I want to, someday I want to do a podcast on how sick I am of the word conspiracy theory, because it is just being used. Now, it is the new argument, reductio ad Hitler. Reducing everything to this ridiculous thing in association. And whenever you associate any of your views with the conspiracy theory, that is a logical fallacy in arguments, because you're just trying to shut it down. You're not listening to the arguments.
Absolutely. Yeah. Racist, all the different things, right? Conspiracy theory, racist, misogynist, homophobe, Islamophobe, whatever. It's just a way to just stop the conversation. But I want to say something real quick about what you said about people, because my wife is like the person you described. She loves God. She loves Jesus. She doesn't care about any of this stuff. But the reason I care about it, and I think it's important, is what happens, whether it's a false flag, right, and it's the government, and they bring out, and they're trying to, the New World Order, and they're trying to get one world government. What's a better way than to have 500 UFOs show over 6 different countries' capitals, right? We have to fight this thing, right? We need to join forces. But what happens to the person's Christian worldview, and especially if it's a real UFO invasion, right? When it gets in your face, okay, this is real. What does that do to your faith? And that's my biggest concern for people that don't pay any attention to it or anything. They just a lot of people just write it off as silliness. And that's fine. But what happens if it turns out to be real and your faith gets shaken? And it's not going to shake my faith either way, because there's nothing in creation that God's not in control of. Right. So if there are UFOs, I find it weird that God wouldn't have let us know, hey, these people can reach here. Right. But I think for the person who's not paying attention, they can get blindsided. It can really shake their faith. And I don't think it needs to, or it should.
It is, and most people, their faith, especially in our circles, they don't really have an open box. I've been talking about putting your theology in a box, and of course, we do standardize a lot of things in our theology. We turn them into creeds and dogma, but there isn't really any dogma about this, and it just falls outside the worldview you're comfortable with, and in everything we like to stay comfortable, and this thing is kind of breaking that with lots and lots of Christians. And we do back just for a second to what we were talking about earlier with the Ouija boards. God does not want us. He says, no, there's you don't go to a medium, you don't go to a spiritualist, you don't go to somebody that talks to the dead, and you don't talk to the dead. That's part of the rules of the Old Testament that I think present principles that are abiding for us as Christians. Because here's the deal, here's the most significant thing, and I think this is so important. If it does turn out to be real in some sense, nobody's lying, something's going on. We are not, God says, to try to communicate with the other side. That's the basic deal, outside of communicating with God in order to get information. God's basically saying, I am your source of information about all spiritual things. Do not try, if you ever see a ghost, do not talk to that ghost and get information from that ghost. Do not believe that ghost. If you ever see a demon, if you ever see it, and this extends, I believe, to aliens, but I'm not sure about that, because what if they are from the other side? Now they got some new information, and it's natural information that God wants us to have. That's a harder one. But if we know it's something spiritual, something from the other side, which I can't really define the other side at. All I know is it seems to be that, where the angels are, I know is different than where we are. I don't think it's a place. I don't think it's you can map it out in our universe. I don't think it's another unit or another galaxy. I mean, it could be. It could be. I'm not saying
it has to be outside of place and time, though.
Yeah. So I mean, they are transcendent to where we are. So maybe another dimension. That's what I think. And so in that, I think God is saying, do not try to reach that other dimension where I am at outside of me. And I think that's the most important thing. Don't you think that's the principle?
I think it is, and I think it's important. The things you listed, like necromancy, etc. God wouldn't prohibit it if it wasn't possible.
You're right.
Tell us, don't
Good
do
point.
these things that you can't do, right? And that's even with all the idolatry and everything in the Old Testament. These were idols, but they were trying to call the spirit of their God, right, into the into that idol. It was the opening, right, the opening of the mouth or whatever. And so it's not again with the Ouija board. The Ouija board's the modern thing. The idol was something that they were trying to call a spirit into.
Yeah.
They weren't worshiping the piece of wood. I mean, we have lots of references to worthless pieces of wood and metal and stone in the Old Testament, but in their mind, the pagans and go back to the Babylonians and all, they were trying to call an actual spirit in, which is prohibited, right? We're prohibited from doing that, like you said. But it's not because it's not possible. It is possible, or we wouldn't be prohibited from doing it.
Isn't that interesting? Let me see if I can draw the line. I know we're kind of all over the place, but this is a blast.
Yeah, it's hard to not pull all different things into the alien conversation because
exactly. Let me ask you this: what you think about this? Okay, so we know we are not to communicate with the other side in order to get information. Let's say you say, I need to find out where my dead wife is. And so you go to a spiritualist, medium, and they say, I've got her right here. And she says she is fine, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is what we are not to do. Now, let's say something within our worldview already that you run across somebody who is demon possessed.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling somebody yesterday that I thought the Catholics did a good job. I mean, generally speaking, whenever they say you do not communicate with the demon outside of asking his name and invoking the name of Jesus, you're not trying to get a conversation going with them. You don't want information from them. Stay completely away from that. But the problem is, Ed, here's the line. Some people, we do believe, get demon possessed, and therefore we encounter the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to, in some way, confront it. I don't think we run from a person who is demon possessed. I don't know how to cast out a demon. So I'm not saying that, but I've tried before.
Mm-hmm.
And I have tried to call on the name of Christ and get a demon out of somebody who believed they had a demon. Didn't work. Ended tragically, but it was that's not funny. I'm sorry, it's really not. It was my sister, and so I can laugh about that. So
I know the story.
Yeah, so you come across those things. Some people, a person called me the other day and said they were in their hallway and they saw a little black creature, not black in the sense of race, but pure black. It was just they said it looked like it was painted black, and it just ran straight to them and ran straight through them. Again, another story that I had no reason to doubt except for it's weird, it's bizarre. But we believe all kinds of bizarre stuff. But my deal is, what do you do if you see a spirit and they start talking to you? Or let me go to our current thing. You see an alien, they confront you. Since they're on this side, at least in visibility, does that suddenly say that we can have conversations with them? See the line, Ed?
Yeah, but I think I guess the issue is when you're talking about something that's confronting you versus you summoning them, right?
So it's an intentionality.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, if an alien lands in my front yard, comes in and asks to use the bathroom, right? I mean, that's not me summoning him here, right? So, I mean, I would hope that he would use the bathroom and leave, right? But who knows? But I think
Yeah.
that's different than sitting on a mountain somewhere with 50 of your buddies that each paid $1,000 a piece to be there, and and then we're all going to chant this chant until the aliens show up, right? There's a big difference there, and it's the same with demons. It's the same with like going to a medium, things like that. Whether it's a fortune teller, whether it's somebody trying to reach you know, reach a dead relative or loved one or whatever. I think there's a big difference there, and I think especially with demons, I don't think we go looking for them anyway. I think we just, if we're confronted, we do what you did. You try, right? You trust in Christ and try to remove the demon, but you don't go looking for them. I don't think that's. I don't really think that's something that we should do.
Well, let me ask you something else. Another line, whenever you say you don't go looking for them, what if I say,
Well, I mean, that just is common sense too, not just
well, what if I say this? We can go looking for them as long as our intentions are not to gain information from them, but about them. What about that? What do you think? Because there are people out there like the ghost hunters. They are more to go there and try to figure out what's going on. They're investigating.
Yeah,
They're kind of one of the most legitimate of the
yeah,
ghost
they're
hunting.
also glory seeking, right? I mean, they got a show about it, right? So it's not like they didn't. It's not like there was no money in it for them or anything.
Well, okay, let me not use them.
Regular people.
If I search right now, paranormal investigators, Oklahoma, you will find a list of people. I've looked through them. Just curious one day, a long time ago, but I've looked through them, and that none of them make any money. They're all there to help other people, and so those type of people, they go there. You know, of course, some of them go there and try to summon the ghost or talk to the ghost or whatever else. But if you're going to try to help somebody, isn't it kind of like somebody who is an exorcist? And he goes to places to help with the exorcism. So in some sense, somebody's there to do something, to confront, to make it leave, kind of like a demon possession. And then maybe there's other people who just study it, like people at the Skinwalker Ranch. They're trying to figure out what's going on. Don't you think that's okay because the intentionality is different?
I Yeah, I guess spiritual stuff versus even though I think it's all tied together. And when I was talking about I was specifically talking about exorcisms, right? I think the only time you get into any of this stuff is if you're called to do it. You're called to teach, right? I'm called to teach to some degree. I'm also, I live in El Salvador now for 13 years, and we do work with missionary groups and work with a lady that has kids of prostitutes that she raises. And so that's the kind of stuff that I do, but I'm called to do that. But I believe I'm called by God to do that, just as you're called by God to teach. I believe that. I don't think these people are their occupation is that. But there's a difference between a Christian worldview and just your worldview, right? So these people are free outside of Christianity to do whatever they want. Yeah. I don't think experimenting. I think if you're trying to get things out of a house, if a house is possessed or something like that. I grew up, with the Amityville Horror when I was a kid, and it was a scary movie, scary book. But so if you can get somebody to come in, bless the house, and remove the evil spirits from it, I think that's fine. Yeah, I just don't think the average Christian should be out looking for demons and trying to do it.
Yeah, because that's where the line's at, and that's where you say it's pretty easy probably to cross that line. If you go, hey, there's a abandoned hospital here in Oklahoma that somebody says there's lots of ghosts and demons. If I'm sitting here scratching my head saying that would be really cool, and I just go there and just hang out, maybe I don't even say anything and wait for something to happen. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I am saying that feels very close to being on that line of gaining information beyond what God wants us to. And again, I think we work as Christians in principles, that is more important than the actions, because the principles call us to the actions. They're the reason why we do things. And I do believe that whenever we're getting into this stuff, which we are, of course, I mean, the world is more and more, and I think it's just going to increase. We've got to keep that in mind. We've got to understand that, you know, God's not just saying, I don't want you to know anything. He's just saying, I've got the information that is beyond the spiritual information. Those things are from me alone, and trust in me. And as long as we keep that principle and hold to it strongly, as we move into this time of weird stuff, I think it's always good to remember that principle, because it's one about the authority of God and the trust that we're supposed to have in Him. But it's not about don't investigate, don't explore, don't try to figure out what's going on in this world, because that is what we're called to do as well.
We're called to have dominion over the world, right? But here's the thing: you go to that hospital, right, and you find out, okay, there really are demons in here, right? And you get possessed. Right? It's dangerous too. It's not the fake stuff and the cool stuff, right? The scary house at the amusement park, the haunted house there, that's fun because it's fake. But we're warned against doing things too, not just because it's a sin, right? It's because this is really dangerous.
Yeah.
What if the thing follows you home?
Yeah.
Because I do believe they're real. They're not all real. Obviously, most of the stuff we hear about is hoax, whether it's UFOs, ghosts, whatever it is, right? Most of it are hoaxes or misunderstandings. But demons aren't your friend, right? There's nothing going to be good. You go there to be scared, and who knows what can happen, right?
It is. And that, again, the intentionality is very iffy whenever you talk about stuff like that. But at the same time, it's really good during this time, though, to remember that principle, to remember, you know, God telling us that. I mean, He says it in principle in general, and He says it, you know, in specific when He's talking about going to mediums and spiritualists. Don't do that stuff. I should have had that scripture ready. I don't, but it's in Leviticus somewhere. But having said all that, here we are talking about this stuff, and you know, it shows us. Just talking about it like this is not crossing the line. We're trying to figure stuff out. We are investigating the world, like you said. We are having dominion over the world, and therefore that we've gone 1 hour so far talking about it, because there's so much, and we could talk about it for another few hours. But let me now put all these things together and ask you the question.
I do want to say one other thing, but it'll make you cranky.
You want to what?
I want to say one other thing about the whole idea of the demons and all that stuff. But
go ahead.
It's going to make you cranky though. If we go and we read in First Enoch about the Watchers, right, and all that they taught man to do, right?
Hey, listen. This is what I was going to get into. So right now, I'm pausing for a second and going to close, but I'm going to reopen. Okay.
Sounds good.
I'm not shutting anything down. I just want this to be broken up into two podcasts.
Okay, cool.
Okay, Ed, we are going to have to stop for now, and we will continue this conversation.
Okay.
Because we got so much more to go.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been great. This is just a preamble, folks, to what we can talk about this. And now we're going to kind of move into more of our theories and trying to work it in with the Bible and what may be going on in the background. Right. And I think this next one will really kind of blow you away, get you out of your box. Not because we know we're right about it, but because we know we're right about we don't know. And that's going to be the thing. So join us next time for this. Thanks, Ed, for being here.
You bet.
Okay.